The sword that no one could lift. On the alien planet Velkara, in the middle of the red desert stood an ancient temple made of black stone. It had no guards, no machines, and no power lines. But everyone in the galaxy knew it was the most dangerous place in the sector. Inside that temple was the sword of Velkara, a long glowing blade stuck in a block of stone. It had been there for 400 years, and no one, not aliens, not warriors, not scientists, had ever moved it. Thousands had tried. Some were the strongest fighters in the galaxy. Others were leaders, prophets, kings. But the sword never moved. Not even a little. Some who touched it fainted. Some screamed. Others vanished. Legends spread fast across space. The sword cannot be lifted by hands filled with pride. Only the one with a pure heart will awaken the blade. When the sword rises, the world will change forever. Most aliens stopped trying. They believed it was just a story. But the temple still stood, waiting. Far away in a small space shuttle, a human named Eli Grant looked down at Velkara from orbit. He was young, maybe 28 Earth years. He had short, dark hair, tired eyes, and a scar on his right cheek. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't rich or famous. He was just a quiet explorer. Eli had heard the story of the sword when he was a child. His brother used to tell him about it before bed. Someday, his brother said, someone like you will lift that sword. Not a king, not a warrior, just a good person. Eli never believed it. Not until now. The shuttle landed near the temple ruins. The air was hot and dry. Red dust blew across the ground. 2 alien guards stood near the entrance, holding long staffs, made of glowing crystal. When they saw Eli, one of them laughed. Human? Another one? The taller guard said. What is this, a joke? I'm here to see the sword, Eli said calmly. The other guard smirked. Only fools go inside now. The last one didn't come back. Eli nodded. I'll take my chances. They let him pass. They didn't bother stopping him. Why should they? No human had ever gotten close before. Most turned back after just looking at the blade. Inside, the temple was silent, cold, despite the heat outside. Tall walls were covered in glowing symbols from an ancient language. And there it was. The sword. It floated just above the stone, humming softly. Its blade was silver blue, with glowing veins of energy. The hilt was gold and black, shaped like wings. A soft light pulsed from its center, like a heartbeat. Eli walked forward slowly. His boots echoed on the floor. The air felt heavier with every step. When he got close, his chest tightened. His arms felt weak. But something inside him kept pulling him forward. He reached out with one hand. The sword shimmered. The glow grew stronger. And then, everyone in the temple felt it. A vibration. A sound. A presence. Outside, the guards turned sharply. Did you feel that? One asked. Back in the city, alien sensors began flashing. The sword is activating, elders gasped. A signal was sent to the council. A crowd began forming outside the temple. But inside, Eli's hand touched the hilt. He expected heat, or shock, or pain. Instead, he felt calm, like the sword knew him, like it had been waiting. He gripped the handle tighter and pulled gently. Nothing happened at first. Then, the stone cracked, just a little, but enough. The glow shot upward, filling the temple with blinding light. Symbols on the walls lit up. The air roared with energy. Eli stepped back, eyes wide. He didn't lift it fully, but he had moved it, and in 400 years, no one else had. Outside, the alien crowd was silent. Then the whispers began. The human moved the sword. It's not possible. He must be the one. The Council of Velkara sent guards, warriors, scientists, priests, but the sword had already spoken, and Eli Grant had been chosen, the human outsider. The sword room was quiet again. The glow faded, the hum softened. but the crack in the stone remained. Eli stood still, staring at the sword. His hand was still warm. His heart pounded like a drum inside his chest. He didn't understand what just happened, but he felt it deep in his bones. He had touched something alive. Outside the temple, hundreds of aliens gathered. Tall, thin creatures with glassy eyes. Short, spiked beings in silver armor. Elders with glowing staffs. Traders. Priests. Children. All of them stood in silence, staring at the entrance. A moment later, Eli walked out. No guard stopped him. No one dared speak. The crowd just stared at the human who had touched the untouchable. Then someone in the crowd whispered, "He's the one." Another voice said, "It chose him." And then, shouting. A loud, angry voice cut through the silence. "He's a fraud." The crowd turned. A tall alien stepped forward. His body was covered in black armor. His eyes burned with fire. His name was Varkun, a war general of Velkara. He had tried to lift the sword many times. He had even broken 2 fingers trying. "Now," his voice thundered, "no human belongs in the Temple of Strength. This one is a trick. A weak outsider." Eli stayed quiet. He wasn't a warrior. He didn't like fights, but he didn't back away either. "I didn't come here to steal anything," he said calmly. "I just touched it." Varkun laughed. "You touched it? And now the stone is cracked?" "Lies." "I felt something," Eli said. "I don't know what it was, but it felt real." A silence fell again. Then a soft voice rose from the edge of the crowd. An old alien priest stepped forward. Her eyes were white and cloudy, and she leaned on a cane carved from moonstone. "I saw it with my own eyes," she said. The sword responded to him. Varkun stepped toward her. "The sword is a symbol of power. If it chooses a human, it makes us all look weak." "No," she said softly. "It means change is coming." Later that day, Eli was brought to the council hall, a high stone chamber lit with glowing blue orbs. 10 alien leaders sat in a circle around him. Their faces showed no emotion. "You touched the sword of Velkara," said one. "It has not reacted in centuries. Why now?" Eli shook his head. "I don't know." "Do you come from a special bloodline?" another asked. "No," he said. "I'm just an explorer." A third leaned forward. "Then why did the sword hum when your hand touched it?" Eli looked down. Maybe it didn't care who I was. Maybe it just knew I was ready. The room was quiet until the eldest counselor spoke. "There is a prophecy. Very old. Almost forgotten." She opened a small book made of crystal pages. "When the sword sleeps in stone, only a heart not seeking power will wake it. The soft-fleshed one not of our kind will light the blade, and the planet shall answer." Eli looked up. "That prophecy, it's about a human?" "Some believe so," the elder said. "Some fear it." Eli sat in silence. He had never believed in fate or legends. But now, maybe he was part of one. That night, Eli stayed in a small room beneath the council hall. It was quiet and cold, with only a soft light on the wall. He lay on the bed staring at the ceiling. He couldn't sleep. His mind was full of questions. What if the sword had made a mistake? What if touching it had started something dangerous? Then, he felt it. A sound. A hum. From the other side of the planet. He sat up. It wasn't in the room, but inside his mind. He closed his eyes, and suddenly, he saw a vision. A giant structure buried deep beneath Velkara, a circle of fire, strange symbols glowing, energy rising from the earth, a voice whispering, "The gate is waking." He opened his eyes, sweating. He didn't know what the gate was, but he knew this. Touching the sword had started something, and now the planet was responding. The alien who hates humans. The twin suns of Velkara rose slowly above the desert, casting long shadows across the ancient city. The people were whispering again. Word had spread across the planet. The sword responded to the human. Some called it a sign, others a curse. But one voice rose louder than all others, a voice filled with anger. Varkun. General Varkun stood on a high platform near the Temple of Strength. His black armor reflected the morning light, and his sharp teeth showed as he growled into the crowd. We cannot allow this. A human has touched our sacred blade, and now fools call him chosen? His voice echoed across the stone buildings. The crowd was mixed, some silent, others nodding, some frowning. He does not carry our blood, Varkun shouted. He does not understand our past. He is not one of us. He slammed his fist on the stone railing. That sword belongs to Velkara, not Earth. A young alien soldier in the crowd dared to speak, but the sword moved. It glowed for him. Varkun turned sharply. So we bow to glowing tricks now? We hand over our history to outsiders because of a light? No one answered, because no one had ever seen the sword react. Until Eli. Far below the temple steps, Eli walked quietly through the marketplace. His simple clothes made him blend in, but not enough. Aliens turned their heads as he passed. Some stared, others looked away. A few children smiled, but most just watched in silence. He didn't blame them. He knew what he had done had shaken something deep in this planet and in its people. He entered a small shop to buy water. An old alien woman placed the bottle on the counter. Her eyes were cloudy, her hands shaking. You should leave, she said softly. Eli blinked. Why? You've stirred the sand. Now the storm will come. He tried to smile. I didn't mean to. No one means to wake a planet, she said. But once it wakes, it does not sleep again. Eli left quietly. Later that day, a message arrived from the council. General Varkun has challenged you. A formal duel, not to the death but for honor. If Eli refused, it would be seen as weakness. If he accepted, he could be humiliated, or worse. Eli sat in silence for a long time. He wasn't a fighter. He didn't know their rules. He didn't want violence. But something inside him whispered, face him, not with strength, but with truth. He stood. I accept. The next morning, the arena was full. Aliens from all tribes came to watch. Warriors, monks, scouts, and even members of the council filled the stone seats. In the center stood two figures, Varkun, tall and fierce in black battle armor, and Eli, simple clothes, bare hands, heart pounding in his chest. A bell rang. The duel began. Varkun charged first, swinging a long staff. Eli ducked. He didn't fight back. He didn't swing. He dodged, stepped aside, stayed calm. Varkun growled louder. Fight me, human. I'm not your enemy, Eli said. You're a thief. You stole our prophecy. Eli's eyes were steady. I didn't steal anything. The sword called to me. I don't know why. Varkun roared and struck again. Eli fell. The crowd gasped. Blood ran from his lip, but he stood back up. I'm not trying to take your history, Eli said. I'm trying to understand it. Varkun raised his weapon for the final blow. But then, the sword glowed, not in the temple. Here, in the arena, a soft humming filled the air. Everyone turned. The sword, still inside the stone far away, pulsed with light, and across the arena floor. Eli began to glow too. His hands, his chest, his eyes, the same color as the blade. Varkun stepped back, eyes wide. What are you? Eli looked around. Maybe I'm not the one you wanted. He looked at the crowd. But I might be the one you need. The crowd was silent. Then one elder stood. She placed her staff on the ground. I saw him speak with no hate, stand with no armor, rise with no fear. She looked at Varkun. He has passed a greater test than strength. Others nodded. Even some of Varkun's own soldiers looked unsure. The general's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. He turned and walked away, not defeated by fists, but by something far harder. Truth. That night, Eli sat alone under the stars. The sword was calling again softly, not with sound, with feeling, and far beneath the surface of the planet, something ancient was listening to, the trial of worth. The air outside the city had changed. It was no longer just wind. It carried a sound, a low hum, a vibration in the dust. It came from beneath the ground, from the center of Velkara itself, and it was calling Eli. He stood at the edge of a canyon, staring down into the caves of memory, a sacred place no one entered unless chosen. The entrance shimmered like glass, the stone walls pulsing with old light. Behind him, a small group of council elders waited. Their eyes were calm, unreadable. One stepped forward. "You have touched the sword," she said. "You have stood in the arena without anger, but the sword only chooses those who pass the final trial." Eli nodded. "What's inside the cave?" "No one knows," she replied. "Each sees something different. The cave shows you your truth." Eli took a breath, then stepped inside. Darkness swallowed him. No sounds, no walls, just shadow, then light, but not from outside, from within. The walls around him changed, turned into shapes, scenes, memories. He was back on Earth, a dirt road, a small farmhouse, and his brother. Laughter, racing bikes, fireflies in the grass. Eli smiled, but then rain, screaming, red lights. His brother was gone. He was 12 years old, and he had held his brother's hand in a hospital room as machines beeped slower and slower, until they stopped. Eli dropped to his knees. The cave whispered, "You carry pain. You never let it go." He clenched his fists. "I couldn't save him." The cave answered, "You were not meant to. You were meant to remember." The memory faded. Now he was older, in a lab, surrounded by humans in suits, laughing at his questions. "You want to explore other worlds? With a history like yours? You'll break." They shut the door behind him. He stood alone. The cave whispered again, "They called you weak. You believed them." Eli swallowed. "But I kept walking." The whisper grew, softer. "And that is why you are here." The cave faded again. Now there was nothing, just the sword, floating, waiting. But when he reached for it, it vanished. In its place stood himself. A copy. Eyes full of doubt. "You don't belong here," the reflection said. "You're not a hero. You're not chosen. You're just Eli." Eli looked at it calmly. "I know." "Then why are you still trying?" the reflection demanded. Eli stepped forward. "Because I don't need to be chosen," he said. "I choose myself." The reflection blinked, then smiled, and vanished. In that moment, the cave lit up fully. Symbols along the wall burned gold, and a door appeared, one no one had ever seen before. Eli stepped through. Outside the canyon, the sky cracked with thunder, though no storm had come. The elders looked at one another. "Impossible," one whispered. "He has found the inner gate." Eli entered a circular chamber lit with a soft white glow. In the center floated a crystal, small, delicate, and humming like a heartbeat. Inside it, a symbol spun slowly, the same symbol engraved on the sword. He stepped closer. The crystal whispered in a voice that wasn't male or female, young or old. "The sword is not a weapon. It is a key." Eli frowned. "A key to what?" The voice answered. "To memory, to energy, to awakening." He touched the crystal. It vanished, and in that instant, he understood. The sword wasn't just a blade. It was connected to the planet itself, to something hidden deep below the crust, something asleep, and he had only just begun to wake it. Eli walked out of the cave as the sun set. The air was cooler now and the dust was calm. The elders stood waiting. They looked at his glowing hands. They didn't speak. They bowed. And for the first time in centuries, a new name was spoken by the High Elder. The trial has ended, she said, and Velkara accepts the human. Eli looked out at the desert. The sword still waited. But now it wasn't just humming for him. It was listening, and something far below was stirring, not angry, not afraid, just awake. The true history of the sword. The desert winds had gone silent, even. The sky above Velkara seemed to pause, as if the planet itself were holding its breath. Eli stood at the entrance of the temple again. The sun had just risen, painting the ancient stone with soft golden light. His hand still glowed faintly from the trial inside the caves. But something deeper had changed, something he couldn't yet explain. The sword hadn't moved again, but it was no longer asleep, it was waiting. As he stepped inside, the energy in the air felt different. Warmer, quieter. The old temple lights flickered to life, even though no one had touched them. And then, he heard a sound, a soft voice. Not from outside, from inside the temple walls, from the sword itself. "You are close now." Eli stopped. "Who are you?" he whispered. The voice didn't answer that. Instead, it said, "You carry the memory." The others did not. The memory of what? The floor beneath him lit up, symbols glowing in a slow circle. The walls shimmered, shifting from stone to images. Visions, not just pictures, but living history. Eli stood in the middle as the sword showed him the truth. Thousands of years ago, Velkara was not just a planet. It was a beacon, a meeting ground of many species, a place of peace and knowledge. The core of the planet held a living light, a powerful energy made not from fuel or fire, but from emotion, from connection. It responded only to those who felt deeply, who carried memory, love, grief, and hope. The sword was created as a key to that light, not to control it, but to protect it. Only someone pure in heart, one who had walked through pain and still chosen compassion, could lift the sword and awaken the core. Many tried. Most failed. Then war came. A race of machines tried to harness the living light and turn it into a weapon. The people of Velkara fought back, but when defeat seemed certain, they sealed the sword and buried the truth. The war was forgotten, but the sword remained, waiting. The vision ended. Eli stood in silence, his eyes wide. So the sword was never about power, he whispered. It was about feeling. The voice returned, softer now. You remembered. That is why you were chosen. Eli stepped forward. But I'm not one of your people. I'm not from Velkara. Your body is human, but your heart carries the same pain, the same love, the same light. He looked up at the blade. And the others? They tried with force. You came with wonder. Eli placed his hand on the sword's hilt again. This time, it didn't resist. It felt like placing his hand on the shoulder of an old friend. Back outside, the elders gathered again. The sky shimmered softly above them. Energy rippled in the sand. One of the council members looked up at the temple, then turned to the others. He's seen the truth, she said. The sword has shown him the memory. But he has not yet lifted it fully, another elder said. The high priestess spoke last. Because the planet is not ready. That night, Eli sat beside a fire near the canyon. The stars above him were brighter than ever. The glowing symbols on his arms had not faded. Ryan, his quiet alien guide and translator, handed him a warm drink. You look like you saw the universe, Ryan joked. I think I did, Eli said. Ryan nodded. Then tell me, what does the sword want? Eli stared at the fire. It doesn't want a warrior, he said. It wants a rememberer. Someone who carries emotion and gives it back. The sword isn't a weapon. It's a message. Ryan tilted his head. A message to who? Eli looked up at the stars, to all of us. Far beneath the surface of Velkara, a soft pulse echoed in the ground. The living light was waking up, not with heat, but with memory, and the key to it all was no longer a blade. It was Eli, the power beneath the planet. The ground trembled for the third night in a row. At first, the people of Velkara thought it was only shifting plates beneath the crust, but the tremors weren't random. They were rhythmic, like a heartbeat rising from the deep. And every time the ground shook, the sword of Velkara glowed brighter. Eli stood in the temple again, staring at it. This time, he wasn't alone. The elders, the guardians, even the young ones, all had gathered. They knew something was coming, and deep beneath the planet something was waking. From the shadows, a voice broke the silence. You should have never touched it. It was Varkun, the war general, stepped into the room flanked by his private guard. He didn't wear armor this time, only black robes and a single blade strapped to his back, but his eyes burned with the same fire. You woke the planet, Varkun said, and now the balance is broken. Eli turned to face him. I didn't break anything. I listened. Varkun's fists clenched. That sword was our legacy. You've twisted it. I didn't lift it to take power, Eli said. I lifted it because something inside me answered. Varkun stepped forward. You still don't understand, human? Beneath this world is a power no one controls. That's why it was locked away. Eli's voice lowered. Then why does it call to me? Varkun didn't answer. Because he couldn't. Because even he felt it now. The hum in the floor, the rising warmth in the walls. The planet was waking, and it wasn't asking for permission. Later that day, the elders gathered at the mouth of a newly formed canyon. The ground had split wide, revealing a massive hidden vault beneath the city, smooth black walls carved in spirals, glowing softly with gold light. This was the Chamber of Core Memory, a place only spoken of in legend. Inside was the living light, source of energy older than Velkara itself, a force that connected thought, feeling, memory, and matter. It didn't destroy, it transformed. Eli stood at the edge, staring down. The sword was now strapped across his back. It had allowed him to carry it, fully lifted for the first time in 400 years. As he stepped into the vault, his feet lit the floor with each step. The chamber responded. Light danced across the ceiling. The walls played back moments, old memories from ancient times, peace, war, celebration, mourning. It wasn't history through words or numbers, it was emotion, and in the center of the room was the heart of Velkara, a glowing orb, floating in the air like a sleeping sun. Eli walked toward it slowly. Every breath was heavier, every heartbeat louder. Then the voice returned. The world remembers. Do you? Eli whispered. I do. He reached out, but before he could touch it, explosion. The chamber shook violently. Stone cracked. Lights flickered, and Varkun's soldiers dropped from above. They came in waves, weapons drawn, shouting orders. One grabbed Eli, another fired, into the ceiling. The elders screamed as rocks began to fall. Varkun's voice roared over the chaos. I warned you. That thing is not a gift, it's a curse. We lock it now or we lose everything. Eli pulled away from the soldier's grip. No, he shouted. It's not here to destroy us, it's here to connect us. The orb pulsed, angry now. Fear had entered the room and fear was poison to the living light. The walls began to collapse, but just before the ceiling gave way, Eli threw himself in front of the orb and drew the sword. A burst of pure light exploded. Outward. The soldiers froze mid-movement. The rocks stopped falling. The air turned soft. Still. Then, silence. Eli stood at the center, the sword glowing in his hand. The orb floated before him, fully awake now, pulsing in sync with his heart. The planet had chosen. Varkun knelt, breathing hard. He looked up, no longer with anger, but with something else. Understanding. You weren't meant to conquer it, he whispered. You were meant to become part of it. Eli nodded. I'm not here to lead, or rule, or win. He looked around the room, at the elders, at the warriors, at the glowing memories on the walls. I'm here to remember. That night, the whole city glowed. No alarms, no fear, just a soft light rising from the earth. For the first time in centuries, the living light of Velkara flowed freely again, and all across the galaxy ships paused. Signals picked up waves of memory. People felt things they had forgotten, smiles, songs, dreams, hope, and it all began with one human who didn't come to fight, but to feel. The sword's choice. For the first time in 400 years, the sword of Velkara had left the temple, but not to start a war. It had followed a human into the heart of the planet. And now, the world itself was listening. The wind over the desert was soft now. No more storms, no more shaking ground. Just peace. Eli stood at the edge of the glowing city, the sword on his back, watching as light flowed from the soil like golden rivers. The people, alien and human alike, walked slowly, calmly, some crying, some smiling. They didn't understand everything that had happened, but they could feel it. And for the first time in generations, feeling was enough. The council gathered again, not to pass judgment, but to ask for truth. Varkan, once filled with rage, now stood quietly with his arms crossed. His eyes were not soft, but they were no longer angry. He nodded once toward Eli. It wasn't friendship, not yet, but it was respect. The High Elder looked at the sword glowing faintly on Eli's back. It has responded to you, she said, and through it the planet has awakened. Eli nodded. But it wasn't me alone. It was the bond I shared with this world, with its people, with its memory. Another elder stepped forward. What will you do now? Will you keep the sword? Eli looked down. No. A quiet wave passed through the chamber. No? The elder repeated. I was never meant to own it, Eli said softly. The sword doesn't belong to a person. It belongs to the planet. It belongs to every being who feels, who remembers, who hopes. He reached back and slowly, gently placed the sword on the stone floor. It stood upright, glowing, humming with warmth. Then, the stone beneath it rose. A new pedestal formed. But this one was different. It was open. No more sealed chambers. No more chains. The sword stood freely, shining for all to see. The High Elder spoke again. You gave up the greatest power known to this world. Eli smiled gently. Because the greatest power is knowing when not to use it. Later, as the sun dipped low across the red horizon, Eli sat on the steps of the temple alone. His fingers traced the edge of his boots, still dusty from the caves, the trial, the vault. He looked up at the sky. He whispered, I hope you saw this, Leo. The name floated in the air like a wish, his brother's name, and for the first time in years, Eli didn't feel pain when he said it, he felt peace. Suddenly, footsteps. Ryan approached, carrying 2 cups of steaming water. He sat beside Eli and handed him one. So, Ryan said, you going to become some kind of legend now? Eli chuckled. Hope not. Too late. They sat in silence for a while. Then Ryan asked, do you think the sword will choose someone else next? Eli nodded. Maybe, but only when the world needs it again. Ryan sipped his drink. And if that person is human? Eli smiled. Then I'll know we did something right. Far beneath the planet's surface, the living light pulsed gently in its chamber, not locked away, not sealed, but free. Its waves reached across the stars, not as sound, but as memory, and those who listened, really listened, could hear it. A child's laughter, a mother's goodbye, the song of a lost people, and the voice of a sword that had waited for centuries to be heard. To remember is to live. Back on Velkara, the sword stood silently in the temple once more. But this time, it was not hidden in stone. It was not feared. It was honored. Children came to see it. Some touched it. Some just looked, but none of them were afraid. And one day, many years later, a small girl with silver eyes and rough hands stepped forward. She placed both palms on the hilt. The sword glowed, just a little, and the temple hummed, softly, like a promise, that when the world needed to feel again, the sword would rise.